Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamay Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidaram. Okay, so let's read what we did last time, verses number 26 and 27. Kamam krodham lobham moham tyaktvatmanam pashyati soham atmajnana vihinamuraha te pachyante naraka nigudha bhaja govindam Govindam bhaja mudhamate Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dheyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sanchana Sange Chittam Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam Bhaja Govindam Govindam bhaja mudhamate. So last week we talked about the 6 gangsters, facing the 6 gangsters, right? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. And the ringleader of the gangsters is desire. When we have this selfish desire, then it can go 2 ways. If the selfish desire is not fulfilled, anger. And if there's anger, there's in all ways and forms, there's moha, there's this delusion, lack of clarity. And a desire is not fulfilled, it can also lead to matsarya or jealousy. Because if I didn't get it, then someone else got it. So if my selfish desire is not fulfilled, I become angry. And if my selfish desire is not fulfilled, I become jealous because inevitably somebody else got it. And in anger and jealousy, what happens? I lose clarity. I become deluded. And so when we are angry, we say things we don't mean. And when we become jealous, we unnecessarily criticize. All kinds of things happen because of this selfish desire. With my selfish desires fulfilled, what happens? It leads to greed, lobha. I want more and more and more of it. Again, I lack clarity. I don't know when enough is enough. And the selfish desire is fulfilled. Then what else happens? It leads to pride. I become proud that I have achieved so many things. Again, I'm deluded. I think that I did everything on my own. And so this selfish desire causes so many things. And in all those things, we lack clarity and we live life full of regrets. And we become sad. And so what do I do? What do we do if we have this selfish desire? Then our Shastra says, make it selfless. Whenever we make that desire selfless, then everything works out. How do I make that desire selfless? Pashyati soham. See that truth. See, in our Shastra, in our culture, we have this greeting, Namaste, right? What does this Namaste mean? This Namaste from the highest standpoint, or this Hari Om from the highest standpoint, means that same divinity in me is in you. And we should first start from that unity. Whenever we meet people, whenever we see each other, we start from that unity and we surrender our ego to that unity. So we start from, we are one. Pashyati soham, we are one. I am you and you are me. And I bow down to that. Now, for some people, that might be a little bit hard, little bit challenging. So what do? Then we recognize that maybe we have the same vision. You and I, we have the same vision, and I bow down to that vision. My ego bows down to that vision because that's much, much greater. Fulfilling that is much greater than fulfilling my own selfish needs. Or you and I are part of one community, and I bow down to that community. And that community is far greater than this individuality. So this is what this gesture means. Pashyati soham. It's a very small thing, we think, but its depth is enormous. And so whenever we do this, it's just that reminder that you and I are one. We are one. So that's the best way to let go of all selfishness. Because the root of selfishness is what? I am the most important person in the world and everything should adjust to me and what I think and what I want. Selfishness blinds us to other people's needs and other people's abilities. So, tyaktva, having left that, having seen oneness, then one should then revel in that self-knowledge. Stay rooted in that self-knowledge. Because Atma Jnana Vihina Mudha, those who are not rooted in that self-knowledge, they pachante narakanigudaha. They are cooked in a hell. In what hell? Means their minds become a state of hell. Their minds become a state of negativity. We ourselves bring our minds to a state of heaven and a state of hell. We don't have to wait till we die to experience that. Living, we can be in this naraka, being roasted and cooked. But living, we can also be in heaven and swarga. It's our choice. You know, there was one man, so he had died. And so now he was being taken. He's now being taken to heaven because he was a very good person. So he was being taken to heaven. And so the one who was taking him, they said, first you have to pass by hell. It's on the way. Hell is on the way. So we will pass by hell, but you're going to heaven. Okay, you've done good deeds, you meritorious deeds, and you're going to heaven. But we will have to bypass hell. It's on the way. What can we do? And so that man said, yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm going to heaven. I'm so grateful. Then they were passing, and they were passing by hell. Now, when they were passing by hell, this man saw what everybody is dancing. There's a whole disco. There's drinks. Everybody's laughing, joking, partying. Everything's happening. All of this is going on. So he's hearing the music. He's smelling the food. And he's just peeping in to look in the ambiance. And so he asked this person, the person who's guiding him, the guide, this is hell. The guy said, yeah. He said, are you sure? That's not heaven. The guide said, no, that's hell. The person said, are you really sure? I think that's where I need to go. The guide said, no, that's hell. The person said, can we just peek in? So the guide said, okay, fine. Go peek in, go. So then the person went inside. And in fact, it was a big party, lots of great music, everything happened. But when he went into the back, it was all chaos, all darkness. And so he ran back to the guy. He said, what happened? Why is it so different? He said, well, that was hell's publicity department. So don't get too carried away now. That is just the publicity department. Now your way is in heaven. So sometimes, things can look outwardly, everything is good, but inside something else is completely happening there. So we create our own naraka. We create our own swarga. We create our own hellish state of mind. We create our own heavenly state of mind. Then we saw also now how to stay rooted in this knowledge. So very beautifully in verse 27, he says, Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Chant the Gita, chant the name of God. Keep a rhythm in one's life. Whenever we have a rhythm in one's life, then everything becomes beautiful. Well, we just had our teacher's class before this, and one of the teachers shared that whenever she gets angry, she get angry, she used to chant Ram, 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 Ram. So her children and her husband knew she was angry, so they would all calm down. But she used to chant Ram, 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 Ram. So that is a very beautiful way to stay grounded, to have the name of the divine, the Gita, name of God, name of goddess. That can be our rhythm. Kayam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyayam Shripati Rupam Ajasram. And contemplating on Bhagavan, on a form of God, because we then start to imbibe those qualities. We think what we become what we think. All these pictures and posters we keep in our house, we think they don't mean anything, but actually it's creating an impression. All those pictures in our houses, they create impressions. And when that picture keeps repeating, those subtle qualities also seep in. So it's really important whose image we keep in our homes, because that's what we will imbibe. It will just come. And when you close your eyes, that's what you will see, because you've been seeing it for so long. Neyam sajjana sange chittam. Lead that mind to satsang. Bring that mind to satsang. That mind is so used to being pulled into the world of objects, but take that mind to satsang so that it starts to develop that methodology by which it can go inward. That is seeking. Seeking is when we take that outward mind and we turn it within. That's called seeking. So neya means lead that mind within. Then deyam dina janaya cha vittam. Then engage in charity. And we saw different kinds of charity in all different levels. So now, today, we move on to verse number 28. And 28, let us read that. Sukatah kriyate rama bhogaha.
Sukata kriyate rama bhoga.
Paschadanta sharire rogaha.
Paschadvanta sharire roga.
Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam.
Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam.
Tadapi namunchati papa charanam.
Tadapi namunchati papa charanam.
Sukatah kriyate rama bhoga. Paschadanta sharire roga. Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. Tadapi namunchati papa charanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Buddhamate. So the tagline for this verse is, our present creates our future. So what happens here? Sukataha kriyate rama bhogaha. Sukata, for the sake of happiness, kriyate, one indulges in rama bhogaha. Rama here comes from the root ram, which means to revel. So one revels in worldly pleasures. That's what Rama Bhoga. Paschat hanta sharire roga. And after that, one gets all kinds of disease. Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. And even though in this world, maranam, death, is the sharanam, is the ultimate end, tadapina munchati papa charanam. Even then, one does not leave sinful behavior. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Muramate, seek Govinda. Verily, one indulges in carnal pleasures. Later on, alas, come diseases of the body. Even though in the world the ultimate end is death, then also man leaves not his sinful behavior. So this verse makes us think of how are we living our lives now? And most of our lives go towards enjoyment, bhoga. There's two paths, right? Bhoga and yoga. Bhoga is worldly enjoyment, worldly pleasure. Yoga is inward seeking. So bhoga, outwardly, world enjoyment, pleasure, this and that. Yoga, inward seeking. There's the path of what we call prayas. Prayas, that which is very easy to do, that which is, following our impulses, following whatever our senses and mind want to do. But there's also the path of shreyas, that which is our dharma. And so we're constantly pulled. One part of us is pulled in the way of prayas, to indulge, and the other part of us is pulled in shreyas, to do our dharma, to do what is right. And that pull of shreyas is much, it's much harder because it's against the flow. See, in life, it's always easier to fall down than to rise up, back up, right? It's always easier to sleep in than to wake up, right? When we're supposed to wake up. It's always easier to avoid any confrontation or speaking than to discuss. It's always easier when you're skiing. It's always easier to go down the lift than to climb up, right? To go down than to climb up. That's why when you climb up, there's the ski lift. It's always easier to go down, to fall down. But coming back up, it's a different story. So in this verse, it makes us reflect on how much are we climbing up. We know it's maybe a little bit of an effort, but how much are we doing it? When we indulge too much, what happens in the world when we indulge so much? The Shastras are not telling us don't indulge, don't have fun. The Shastras tell us indulge intelligently in the realm of dharma. But when we indulge too much, it drains us. It drains our senses. It drains our brilliance. It drains our strength. It drains our vitality. And so that causes roga or disease. When we overindulge in anything, it causes all that roga. So this verse is telling us, is it really worth it to keep indulging and then keep feeling that illness, feeling that tiredness, feeling that drainage? But some people might argue, wait a second, even the wise people, people of wisdom, they also get sick. We've learned about so many Mahatmas. They also go through disease. They also get sick. So it's not that only people who indulge in the world get sick. Even those people who are spiritual, they also get sick. So might as well indulge and get sick. But those Mahatmas who have gotten sick, their outlook is completely different. First of all, they know it's not their body. They are completely detached from their body. And they're mentally stable. So they still continue with the same zeal, with the same energy, even if there's some bodily pain. And they don't see pain and suffering as something they want to drive away. Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji, he had throat cancer. And people asked him, you pray to Goddess Kali so often. Why don't you just ask her to heal your cancer? And he said, no, I cannot. Because when I think of her, I don't even think about that. So they didn't even ask for themselves to be healed. This is the greatness of our Mahatmas. They didn't even ask for themselves to be healed because they were so detached from their body. And they knew that their body it's Vyadi Mandiram. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi said it's Vyadi Mandira, means it's a temple of disease. It's an abode of disease. The body will have to go through something or the other. We cannot stop it. It will have to do it. And so for the wise people, they become so detached from it. So much so that one time, Shivaji went to see Samartha Ramdas ji. And Samartha Ramdas ji was feeling sick. And so, he was feeling sick, but he left his blanket and he went to see Shivaji. And Shivaji Maharaj just looked at his blanket and said, "Why is your blanket shaking?" He said, "Well, I left my sickness to the blanket so I could see you." So they were very, very much detached from it. So it is true that even wise people get sick, they go through disease, they go through physical instability, but they are very detached from it and they don't even ask to be healed from it. That's the difference between them and us. When we go through pain and suffering in our body, we just want to get rid of it. We just want it to get out of our system. But they tell us to just pause for a moment, because even this time of suffering and pain, if we just take a moment to think about it, it could really intensify our seeking for God. Because how much more can we take? How much more do we want to come back into this world and experience this? When we really take a moment, then our mumukshutvam, our thirst for God, can even grow in the midst of this suffering. So this verse says, those out of happiness, they just keep on indulging, keep on pursuing the world, not even thinking what else could be there. They will verily end up in these disease. It takes out the teja, the vitality, the brilliance, the virya. It takes out all of these things from our mind. And it says here, even if people know that death is the end, still they don't stop. Still they don't stop. Even if they know that we cannot take anything with us. We cannot take these pleasures, these relationships. We cannot take anything. The only thing that will come to our next life is our dharma. What karma have we done? What vasanas do we carry? Those are the only things that will go to the next life. If that's not nurtured, then what happens? Again, we end up in the same cycle. Better yet, those who gain knowledge, who come beyond the cycle of karma, who never have to come back again. That's the ultimate way to live. So still, people don't see this. Still, they engage in whatever they engage. And there's a very beautiful verse now I'm going to share with you from Vairagya Shataka. And this verse clearly tells us the difference between the two paths, bhoga and yoga. So first I'll chant it and then I'll explain. Kshantam nakshamaya grihochita sukham tyaktam na santoshatah sodha dussahashita vata tapana kleshana taptam tapaha dhyatam chittamahernisham niyamita pranena shambho padam tat karma kritam yadeva munibhi taistay palairvanchitah. So this verse talks about how we actually do the same actions. Those who are in the path of enjoyment and those who are in the path of seeking, they do the same actions, but the direction is very different. So kshantam nakshamaya grihochita sukham. Both are very forgiving. But those who are seeking are forgiving because they know that it's a strength to forgive, and they should just let it go, because otherwise it's an additional baggage that they have to keep carrying on this path. But those who are in the path of bhoga, worldly enjoyment, they forgive because they've also done something wrong. So they say, I'll forgive because I want you also to forgive me. I've also done something wrong. You've done something wrong. Now we're even. Then tyaktam nasantoshatah. The ones who pursue seeking, they leave the comforts of their home, meaning that they engage in tapas. They engage in austerity. They leave comforts because they want to really seek the deeper. But those who are in the world or pursuing worldly enjoyments, they leave the comforts of the home for what? To pursue name, to pursue fame, to pursue wealth, to pursue all of those things. They leave the comforts of their home to pursue the world. Those who are seeking, they leave the comforts of their home. They live an austere life because they want to seek God. So both are leaving comforts. Then both are subject to heat and cold, right? Both are subject to heat and cold, because when we live a simpler and more austere life, so many things can happen, intense heat, intense cold, different atmospheres. But this, again, the one who is doing it for bhoga is doing it to seek the world. And the one who is doing it for yoga is doing it to build their inner strength. And both meditate, both contemplate. But the one who's seeking the world is contemplating on wealth. Dhyatam vittam ahardisham. Just contemplating on wealth day and night, day and night. How much money will I make? What's happening in the stock market? This and that. Or just contemplate on that. But the ones who are seeking God, they're also meditating, but they're meditating on that divinity. And so both are doing the same actions. Tat tat karma kritam yadeva munibihi. But they get different fruits. So it's the exact same thing, but one is in the direction of bhoga or enjoyment, one is in the direction of yoga. So this verse says, think about which direction we're focusing our energy in. It's the same effort. With $5, you could get a pack of Doritos and like a bottle of water or something, or maybe not even a pack of Doritos and a bottle of water. But you could also get fruit, right? You could also get fruit or a fruit bar. It's that same $5. It's the same energy we all have. So what are we doing with it? Are we going to the path of worldly enjoyment, bhoga, or are we taking it to the path of yoga? So Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papa charanam. Think again of which direction we're leading our lives in. Because our present creates our future. Every step of the way it creates our future. What is the one thing that we are obsessed with all the time? So, what is the one thing that's pulling us into this world? So Adi Shankaracharya ji says here that it's artha, it's wealth. So let's read this verse on wealth. Artham anartham bhavaya nityam.
Artham anartham bhavaya nityam.
Nasti tata sukhalesha satyam.
Nasti tatah sukhalesha satyam.
Putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi.
Putradapi dhana bhajam bhiti.
Sarvatresha vihita ritihi.
Sarvatresha vihita riti.
Arthamanartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukhalesha satyam putradapi dhana bhajam bhiti sarvatraisha vihitariti bhaja govindam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate. So what does he say here? Artham anartham. Wealth is calamitous. Nityam bhavaya. Reflect on this constantly. Nasti tatha sukhaleshaha satyam. There is not even a wee bit of happiness in there. Putrad api dhana bhajam bhiti. One is even putrad api, afraid from their own son or daughter. Sarvatraisha vihita riti. Everywhere this is ordained. See Govinda. Wealth is calamitous, thus reflect constantly. The truth is that there's no happiness at all to be got from it. To the rich, there's fear even from one's own son. This is the way with wealth everywhere. So what does this mean? So first we have to think about what Adi Shankaracharya is saying. Now, from a very practical standpoint, wealth is needed in life. Wealth is even needed to run this program and to have satsang, and people who have to attend this also have to be financially stable, because otherwise they might be juggling a few things here and there. And wealth in our culture is embodied in Lakshmi Devi, not just outer wealth, but also inner wealth of virtues. So what is being criticized here? See, the purpose of wealth, as we saw in the earlier verses, artha is for dharma. Wealth is for dharma. So when we create wealth, when we earn wealth in a dharmic way, we again use it to perform our duties in the world. And that's the purpose of wealth. Artha is for dharma. And then when we perform our duties to the best of our abilities, what happens is the mind gets purified and we start to seek the higher, and therefore it leads us to moksha. So dharma, artha is for dharma and dharma is for moksha. And in this way, it gets connected to moksha. And what about sensual pleasures or kama or these desires that we have? The desires are fine as long as they're in the realm of dharma, as long as we exhaust them in a dharmic way. So in this way, wealth is connected to moksha. This wealth is not criticized. The kind of wealth that's criticized here is that wealth which does not or is not used for dharma, or is not used for desires in a dharmic way. That wealth which is used for adharma, that is criticized. Wealth used for adharma is criticized. Wealth as a means of hoarding it and keeping it and not giving away, that's being criticized. And wealth as that ultimate source of happiness, that's criticized. So these things are what's criticized. When it says artham anartham, this is what we mean. So let's look at these criticisms first. First, let's go with people who see wealth as the ultimate goal in life. So people get so obsessed with wealth because they feel like money can buy everything. Money can get power, money can get prestige, everything. So there's this overestimation given to money. But let's think for a second. Can money really buy everything? Let's think. Let's even think about, I'm not even talking about happiness. That's very, very obvious. But let's just think about worldly things. First, sleep. Can money buy sleep? Right? Money can buy sleeping pills. That's for sure. And money can buy lots of sleeping pills. But a good night's sleep, that cannot be bought by money. And in fact, so many people who have so much going on in their minds about money, they can't sleep. Then we talk about health. The greatest wealth is actually our health. Now, health, just being able to have a healthy body and a healthy mind, both stable mind and a healthy body. Can money buy that? Money can buy us vitamins, of course, and lots of things that we can take in for our body and mind, but a healthy body, one that gets hungry when it's supposed to get hungry, one that sleeps when it's supposed to sleep and wakes up when it's supposed to wake up. Can money buy that? Can money even buy something like hunger? In our days and age in our society now, we don't know what hunger is because we barely feel it. But hunger is an actual indication of health. We're supposed to feel hungry and then eat, right? Money can buy us lots of food. There's Seamless, there's Uber Eats. Oh, we can get everything we want delivered to our doorstep. But can it buy us hunger? It can't. What about knowledge? Money can buy us degrees. Yeah, it can put us through college. But knowledge is that which really stays with us, that we can apply in our lives, that transforms. It's called knowledge because it transforms. Can money buy that? That really transformative knowledge which will make our lives purer and better. No, that comes when we are in contact with someone so incredibly inspiring. Then our life transforms. Our friendships. Money can buy parties and social gatherings, but a true and real friend, that's very hard to find. Very hard to find. Money can buy a wedding, but not love. So people who put an overestimation on money forget that there are actually so many things that money cannot buy. So we live in this world where unnecessary, undue importance is given to only that. As I said, it is important, but it shouldn't be seen as that's the ultimate goal of life and that with that money we can get everything. And we know for a fact that that money doesn't give happiness. Because we know there's so many people who are happy, but yet they might not have money. And we know so many people who are unhappy and then they have lots of money. So in this way, artha is anartha. How else is artha, anartha? So how else it is anartha is that when we have wealth, what happens is we tend to hoard it. We tend to keep it because we feel like what will happen? What will happen if I don't keep all the wealth with me? But really, the only secure being, the only secure thing in our lives is God. Money can come anytime. It can come and it can go anytime without us even knowing, without us even being forewarned. It can come and just go. And so if this money, when we hoard it and we keep it for ourselves, then nobody benefits. I'm going to share with you a very beautiful subhashita or Sanskrit saying about a miser. And it says the miser, there is no giver like the miser. There's no giver like the miser. And we'll see why. It's a very beautiful verse here. It says, Kripanena samo data na bhuto na bhavishyati asprishaneva vittani yaha parebhya prayachati. So the miser, what does it say? There is no giver parallel to the miser. And there has never been and nor there will ever be. Because without touching, the miser gives health to others. The miser gives wealth to others. What do you mean? So first of all, the miser doesn't give, hoards all of the wealth, right? But that miser hoarding all of it doesn't even spend it on himself. The miser who hoards the wealth doesn't spend it on themselves. They become so, what we say, kanjus, right? They don't like to spend. So they keep the money, but they don't spend it. So they don't touch it. They just keep it, they don't touch it. And then they also don't give it out. They definitely don't give it out. They're not spending it. They're putting it somewhere. So they're not touching it, but they also don't want to give it out. So then it is just there. Then what happens inevitably? When the miser dies, all his money is given away. Everybody else takes it. Huh? So asprishan neva, he doesn't touch it. He doesn't touch his wealth. But when he dies, all the wealth gets taken away. This is what happens when we hoard money. How we think that we have to keep, but in reality, God is the only form of security and is the best form of security. Whatever has to happen will anyway happen. So then, like, what else? How else is artha, anartha? How else is that criticized? Wealth is also criticized because when we use it for adharma. So sometimes when this wealth becomes our aim, two ways we can look at it. One is we're willing to do anything and everything to get that money. So there are people who get into corruption, to bribery. They lie, they steal, they cheat. All kinds of things are done just to get to that money. So there's so much adharma is done just to get this wealth. And then when that wealth is gone, more adharma, they use it for more adharma. So this is not that it stops there, but some people will use it for more bribery, more cheating, more blackmailing. So to get that money, they become very, very crooked. And then when they get the money, they also become even more crooked. And thus, this is calamitous because they see this as a source of happiness. They see this as a source of security when we know it truly isn't. So this is why it's anartha. Now, other reasons why else wealth is calamitous. Because when we have so much wealth and people know, then we're watched by them. All of these scams are happening now. eBay gift card scam, Amazon scam, people asking for the bank balance, some Venmo thing. So many people, already 2-3 people I know, they had to rush to their bank account and freeze everything because the people are hacking into it. So when people see that someone has money, they become, people's eyes are on them. They want to just see how to get that money, what to do with that money. And that's why those who are very rich and smart, they live very normal lives. They don't show off anything because the minute that people see, then they will start to do something, right? And so people are very, very careful because of this fact that everyone eyes their money, everyone eyes their assets. In their own family, in one's own family members, people don't disclose wealth. There was one father, one man, and he had a big family, and he was already getting sick and old. And so he used to keep the keys. He used to have a safe box and used to keep the keys very carefully with him. And so whenever his big family would come, he would keep the keys away. And so everybody knew that he had these safe keys and he would keep it to the side. And so eventually he died. He got very sick and he passed away. Eventually he died. So all the children took care of his cremation, everything was done. Then they all went to the house and they were all searching for the keys because of course they want to see what's in the safe or who's going to get what's in the safe. And so they're all searching for the keys. They found the keys. Then they opened the safe. What did they find when they opened the safe? They found stones. Stones. They found stones there. Apparently that father was bankrupt. But he didn't tell any of his children that he was bankrupt because otherwise nobody would take care of him. And that's why he didn't disclose it. So this is the reality. This is what happens. Huh? That even there is fear, even in one's family when it comes to wealth. It's very sad, but that's the truth. Putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi sarvatresha dhita ridhi. Now this was in the time of Adi Shankaracharya ji. So we can imagine thousands of years ago, this is what's happening. Even now, this is still happening. And therefore, he says, don't get lost or caught up in wealth. Use that artha for dharma and use it for moksha. That wealth is beautiful. That wealth is called Lakshmi. But that other wealth, which is for adharmic purposes, that other wealth which we hoard, that other wealth which we feel is the only source of happiness, that is calamitous. Give that up and seek the higher. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Murate. Okay, now I'll stop here just to see if anyone has questions or thoughts. So I will just summarize the 2 verses we covered. Verse number 28, again, says our present creates our future. So it really depends which way we go, which way we exert our effort, whether it's yoga or yoga. And the same effort could be there, the same practice of tapas, the same practice of austerity, meditation, etc. But what really matters is the direction that it's going in. Is it this way or this way, right? That's what makes the world of difference. And then in verse number 29, we saw about wealth. And rightly, as you all pointed out, I think we need to create more of an awareness about giving wealth away, especially to those who need it. I'll say the closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, wonderful.